So the doctor walks in the room and he's like, who smokes? Because your mom has lungs like a smoker. She's telling me she don't smoke, so who smokes? And we immediately look at my stepdad like, dude, what's like, you the only one that smoke. There's no way possible that he could have been smoking enough for her lungs to look like she smoked. She died at 52. He's been smoking for longer than she's been alive. I mean, that she was alive pretty much. And he's still alive. So it's not the smoking. It wasn't the smoking. So what was it? My mom did hair for 30 years. So every day she's putting perms on people's hair, breathing in these fumes. Every day she's burning canaculon hair. And you know, if you don't know, canaculon hair is super toxic. They usually use it for braids. So she's burning the end of it, breathing in that. She's curling it, breathing in that. She's breathing in all these toxic chemicals every day, so much so that it burned her lungs up to where she couldn't breathe, to where her heart ended up giving out after all the medicine that they gave her and all that other stuff. That's part one. Where was I at? I was talking about my mom dying because she was breathing in all these toxic chemicals at work every day. Nobody told her to wear a mask. She was wearing gloves, but she was never wearing a mask. Hairstylist, I've never seen a hairstylist with a mask on. She probably should start doing that after hearing this story. So this was like 8 years before she passed away. So I'm going on this health kick. I've always been a healthy guy, but I went on like this research of trying to figure out how to heal my mom. This is life and death literally now. So how do I help my mom heal? I found out plant-based diet is the way to go. So I start switching my diet to plant-based, trying to help her switch to plant-based. The doctor tells her, you can't eat that. You can't eat the stuff he's saying. You can't drink these smoothies. You can't take in all these fruits and vegetables like that because it has too much vitamin K. Well, vitamin K is what helps the blood flow. Vitamin K is what thins the blood out. But they had put her on blood thinners. So they told her she got to choose blood thinners or she got to choose food. She got to choose these, what these doctors are telling her. She got to listen to this new stuff I just said. Welcome back, family. So in part one, I told you about my mom dying at 52 years old from the years of working in a salon, the toxic chemicals from doing perms, from burning the hair, from curling the hair, and all the fumes that go along with that, from putting perms on her hair for 40 some odd years probably. And some people jumped on there and decided to try to tell me what it was after I've been praying about this since the day she died, 6 years ago. And my brother as well, which is, some people were sent by the enemy to distract. So I'm not going to get into that. But let me just say, it was not secondhand smoke. She didn't work in a bar. He was not smoking in the house. There was no smoke around her other than the fumes coming off his clothes after he smoked from outside. So anyway, let's move on. So after they give her this diagnosis of congestive heart failure, I find out congestive heart failure is like a paper tiger. Not scary at all unless you allow it to get in your head. But that's exactly what happened. They got in her head. They had spoke to her this death certificate and made her believe that it was over. All she could do was prepare for the end of life and try to survive as long as she can and do what she can while she's here, which is true for all of us. We got to do what we can while we're here. But it wasn't a death sentence. It wasn't a death sentence until they start pumping her full of this medication. Speaking of, so one day she goes to the hospital for high blood pressure. So she gets to the hospital and they get so panicked that they give her too much medication and put her in a coma. A coma. She was in a medical induced coma for 3 days. Did you know that the third leading cause of death in America is medical mistakes? Anyway, that's not the point. So obviously I'm panicked. I'm praying. I'm tripping out. I'm calling people, trying to figure out what to do. I speak to God about it. God tells me, you go wake her up. So I go in the room, I start clapping and hollering. Everybody thinks I'm crazy in this hospital, right? Everybody can hear me. I'm going nuts, clapping, hollering, motivating. Mama, get up right now. She starts to twitch. A couple hours later, she's up. After she wakes up, now we're trying to figure out, okay, what are you feeding her? What are we doing to help her get healthier? I look at the IV bag. I look at the ingredients on the IV bag. And the ingredients on the IV bag, y'all, messed me up. It was basically whey protein. If you know anything about whey protein does not digest well, especially for humans. We should not be consuming animal products, especially animal milk, right? It's so toxic. It's one of the things that cancer feeds on aggressively. cancer loves milk. So she obviously shouldn't be drinking this stuff. Even though she was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, not cancer, you also shouldn't be giving milk to somebody with congestive heart failure. It clogs your arteries. So if somebody has a heart issue, why would you give them something that clogs their arteries? When she was in the hospital, they didn't give her no vegetables, a bunch of processed food. They don't want to help. They didn't want to help. So we go through years of her just getting progressively worse and worse from this medication that she's taking, because she's not able to feed herself real food anymore because they've put her on medication. It was a certain amount of water she could drink because of the diuretics they're giving her, but diuretics, dandelion root is a diuretic, but you can't do both. You can't take a prescription diuretic and take dandelion root. Well, dandelion root I can go get from the store. Prescription I can't. So one is legalized and one is demonized. So 5-6 years or so after the diagnosis, my mom ends up passing away. Even though her lungs were damaged, even though her heart was damaged from her lungs being damaged, even though these things had happened, these things were not a death sentence. These things have been proven to be reversed in other countries. I've seen it in documentaries that they don't want you to see. I've seen it in studies. I did my own research, so I know that this was not a death sentence. I have to be careful how I say this because it's not legal in America to say that herbs or food or natural sources can overtake any type of medical diagnosis. The natural sources have been able to help people change their lives and stay healthy for a longer period of time than choosing the route that my mom chose, which gave her 5 or 6 years. And that was what the doctor prescribed. That was whey protein. That was a bunch of medication, which ended up causing another medication, which ended up causing another medication, which ended up causing toxic overload, which ultimately was the reason that she's no longer here.